21 hours, no deal. The war restarts. What happens now? JD Vance flew 7,500 miles to Pakistan, sat across the table from Iran for 21 straight hours, and flew home with nothing. As of this morning, the Islamabad peace talks have collapsed. No deal, no agreement, no path forward, and a 2-week ceasefire that nobody believes will survive the week. This is the Hormuz Files, and today we are reporting live on the moment this war just got dramatically more dangerous. While mainstream media tries to spin this as a diplomatic setback, we are going to tell you exactly what just happened, exactly what it means, and exactly where this goes next. Because Professor Marandi was in Islamabad, he watched it happen from the inside. And what he is saying right now should stop you cold. What actually happened in Islamabad? Let's start with the hard facts. Highly anticipated face-to-face peace talks between the United States and Iran began in Islamabad on Saturday, April 11th, the most significant direct diplomatic engagement between the two countries in decades. Vice President JD Vance led the American delegation. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi and Parliament Speaker Mohammad Ghalibaf led the Iranian side. The talks were mediated by Pakistan, the only country trusted by both sides. They negotiated through the night. Intensive negotiations continued uninterrupted until the early hours, covering the Strait of Hormuz, the nuclear issue, war reparations, lifting of sanctions, and the complete end to the war. 21 hours of talks. And then, Vice President Vance walked to the cameras and said, "The bad news is that we have not reached an agreement. And I think that's bad news for Iran, much more than it's bad news for the US. They have chosen not to accept our terms." Iran told a completely different story. Iran's state-affiliated Tasnim news agency blamed US demands for preventing a common framework and agreement, saying the talks failed due to what it described as US overreach and ambitions. And Professor Mohammad Marandi, who was physically present in Islamabad throughout the negotiations, wrote on social media with surgical precision. Obviously, the Trump regime wasn't seriously negotiating. Two sides, one room, 21 hours, and two completely irreconcilable versions of what just happened. That alone tells you everything you need to know. So what exactly broke down? JD Vance gave America one simple answer. The simple fact is that we need to see an affirmative commitment that they will not seek a nuclear weapon and will not seek the tools that would enable them to quickly achieve one. Trump had said it even more bluntly before the talks began. No nuclear weapon. That is 99% of it. Iran's position is equally clear and equally immovable. Iran says it has every legal right under international law to enrich uranium for civilian purposes. It says it has never sought a nuclear weapon. And it says America's demand amounts to total surrender, dressed up as a negotiating position. Professor Marandi was direct from Islamabad. Tehran has no problem making decisions. The problem lies with the other side. The Strait of Hormuz is under Iran's control, and the United States is unable to do anything about it. Now here is where our anchoring analysts, Professor Jiang, Scott Ritter, and Colonel McGregor, have all been proven right simultaneously. They all said America's objectives in this war, regime change, nuclear dismantlement, military destruction, were unachievable without ground troops. Trump himself admitted this. He said the goals for the war included destroying Iran's military capabilities and creating regime change, neither of which have happened. 43 days of the most intense air campaign since World War II. And Iran's government stands. Its nuclear program stands, and its hand remains on the Hormuz kill switch. The gap between what America demanded and what it achieved has never been wider. Every episode of the Hormuz Files adds a new voice, A new perspective that cuts through the noise. Today, we add one of the most uniquely qualified people on Earth to analyze this moment. Colonel Lawrence Wilkerson, former Chief of Staff to US Secretary of State Colin Powell, the man who helped Powell prepare his infamous 2003 United Nations presentation, the one that made the case for the Iraq War. A presentation that Wilkerson has since called the biggest mistake of his life. A man who has seen American foreign policy from the absolute inside, who knows exactly how Washington fabricates justifications for wars it has already decided to fight, and who has been saying for months that the same machinery that manufactured the Iraq War is now running the Iran operation. Wilkerson's core argument is devastating in its simplicity. America does not have clearly defined, achievable objectives in this war. It never did. The Trump administration launched Operation Epic Fury with 3 stated goals: regime change, nuclear elimination, and military destruction of Iran. 43 days later, none of those goals have been achieved. None of them are close to being achieved. And the Islamabad collapse just confirmed what Wilkerson has been saying all along. You cannot negotiate your way to goals the other side will never accept. Which means only one thing: the bombs start falling again. So where does this go from here? The ceasefire was 2 weeks. It began April 8th. It expires April 22nd. That is 10 days from now. Netanyahu has already said the ceasefire is not the end of the military campaign against Iran, calling it a stop on the way to achieving all objectives, either by agreement or by resuming the fighting. George Galloway, whose Moats channel has been tracking every development of this war with the kind of unfiltered fury that has made him one of the most watched voices in the world right now, has one question that nobody in Washington will answer. Why would Iran agree to anything when it knows American forces can simply come back? His answer: Iran won't. Not without ironclad guarantees that America cannot reverse. And those guarantees require America to do something it has never done in its modern history: admit it lost. Marandi was even more pointed. He said negotiations were there to show the international community and regional peoples that Iran gave a chance for de-escalation. And then he said it: if the US ignores Iran's rights and the rights of Palestine, Lebanon, and the axis of resistance, Iran will prepare itself for war. Prepare itself for war. After 43 days of being bombed, that is not the language of a country that has been defeated. That is the language of a country that believes it is winning. Professor Jiang said this in 2024. Scott Ritter confirmed it on day 3. Colonel McGregor warned us for months. Colonel Wilkerson says the objectives were never achievable. And Marandi is telling us from the ground, Iran is ready to go again. Here is the Hormuz Files assessment as of April 12th, 2026. The Islamabad talks have failed completely. JD Vance is on a plane home. Iran's foreign minister is talking to Europeans in Berlin, Paris, and London, building an alternative diplomatic coalition that bypasses Washington entirely. The ceasefire expires in 10 days. Israel is still bombing Lebanon. Iran has made clear the ceasefire dies if Lebanon is not included. Netanyahu has made equally clear that Lebanon is not included. The 2-week window is closing. The gap between what America needs and what Iran will accept has not narrowed by a single inch after 21 hours of direct negotiations. And the Strait of Hormuz, the economic kill switch of the entire world, remains under Iranian control, with no agreement on its future. There are now only 3 possible outcomes. A last-minute diplomatic miracle that nobody currently believes is possible. A return to full-scale war after April 22nd, with consequences even more severe than the first 40 days. Or a frozen conflict, a no-war, no-peace limbo that keeps oil above $100 a barrel, keeps global shipping disrupted, and keeps the world economy bleeding slowly every single day. The Hormuz Files will be here for every single development. Every week a new episode, every episode a new voice, every voice another piece of the truth. Subscribe if you haven't already. Share this video right now, because the news you just heard happened hours ago and most people still don't know it. Drop a comment below. Do you think the bombs restart after April 22nd? Or does a last-minute deal save the ceasefire? I will see you in the next file.